All right. Our first inaugural episode of Indecency Unlimited. With me today, we have Westane. He's the creator of the company. It's an HTML based game or web based game. And the interesting thing about this one that I find extremely interesting is it's available on every platform. You can play it as long as you have a web browser, right? You can play it?
That's right.
That's awesome. I mean, personally for us, we struggle with trying to find other platforms, and to be able to do it on everything, that's huge.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I don't know about you, but anytime I get a new internet-enabled device, the first thing I'm going to try to do with it is figure out how to get porn on it.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I want to offer the same service to everyone else. At the same time, though, it's kind of limiting because for future projects, we do have future projects lined up. It's like, all right, do we want to start looking at Unity or Godot or other options to develop the next game? Well, if we do that, we lose that universal compatibility.
Yeah, I guess you lose
it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, the ability to like have more graphics and a more like a different UI, right? Because you're using, what are you using right now? Twine, is it?
I am using Twine. I'm using Twine with the Sugar Cube language, which is basically just JavaScript.
Okay.
And since it's basically just JavaScript and CSS, really, there's a lot of options. I thought that we were pretty ahead of the curve when it came to user experience for Twine games, but now people are putting the company to shame with what you can do, and it's got me pushing to learn more CSS and JavaScript. Awesome. I have a whole file of what we'll do next time.
Well, when we first started, we were looking at like, hey, what can we use? What can we do? And I remember jumping into Twine and seeing its power, and I was like, oh, this is like, you can have like choose your own adventures and like all this stuff, and I'm like, this is a pretty cool program. And ideas were just flying around back then because we weren't as busy as we are today, and when you start, you get so excited, you're like, I want to do this, and then you realize it's like, yeah, you know what, you just focus on one thing and what you do well and just keep going. Because I mean, you've been in the game for what, like 6 years now you've been developing, or 6 years plus?
Just about, yeah. This year is our 5th year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
No, last year was our 5th year anniversary.
Oh yeah, it goes by so fast, right?
We're coming up on 6 years
Nice.
This July.
That's
It'll
nice.
be 6 years. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they say for like businesses in general, because I mean, you obviously treat it as a business now, like it's no longer a hobby, I guess, because I mean, you have a decently large Patreon. They say after you survive 5 years, like that's the big hurdle. Like you've pretty much shown that you can survive and live.
I'll believe that when I wake up and feel it.
Yeah, the feeling of the rug being able to be pulled out from underneath you is real. It's like an everyday
there was a
stressor.
little while there. There's a little while there. I think things have gotten better now. But there was a while, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4, where the environment that's on Patreon was kind of like every morning me wondering, is today the day that I get my email that we've been shut down?
Yeah. We had one of those.
Like, is this going to be the post that gets me shut down?
Yeah. We had one of those moments, and I like thankfully for us, it was near the beginning in our first 6 months within our first year, and it was like, and it was really early in Patreon's inception. I mean, I think for H games, it was like Akabar was the top, or Breeding Season was up there, and
yep.
we got that email, but since then, we've seen it happening, and we've seen all the Doomer news, and we haven't had anything happen.
Cookie got shut down.
Really?
Well, I mean, for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive someone's going to scream at me in chat, but I'm almost positive that he got a C&D. Not a cease and desist, but a Patreon pulled the plug on him.
Oh, really? For content.
Briefly.
There's been a few, like I always try to reach out sometimes when I hear about it, and then, because we have, being another developer, we can like kind of get that pull and be like, what's going on, right? And every time, it usually just, Patreon works with their creators to keep you on that service, right? They don't want to be like, beat it, because they know what'll happen. So, I mean,
and then I just saw the emails going around recently for, hey, we're forming an adult content creator group on Patreon. And part of me is thinking, is this a trap? Is this where they get us? but I mean, yeah, they want the money.
Yeah, my last interaction with Patreon was when I accidentally stumbled on them secretly incorporating Discord rewards somewhere on Reddit. I saw some post and then I messaged them and I was like, no, we were like number 9. They're like, how did you find this out? And I was like, on Reddit. And they're like, really? Oh, no one's supposed to talk about it. But yeah, since then we haven't had no discussions with them, no talks. I mean, you don't even see guys like Dark Cookie or any of those guys get invited to like their cons or anything like that. You know, it was they're just, this is like the dark corner of their website, although it's quite large.
Yeah, they don't want to talk too much about it, but also they stand to lose a lot by dismissing it.
Yeah, and it's changed a lot. Like, I mean, podcasts are massive on the platform. You know, like back when it first started, it was breeding season, and then Dark Cookie and on Summertime Sega, those were big, and then you had the Pokemon Go guys and a bunch of other stuff. Wasn't Dark Fortress on Patreon for a while too, or Dwarf Fortress? Sorry, Dwarf Fortress.
I don't know.
I think they were, but anyways, yeah, it's ebbed and flowed so much. You know, they had all the like the OnlyFans girls, they were on Patreon before, and then now OnlyFans jumped in. I mean, it's a matter of time somebody comes around with something for us, but who knows?
I've tried other things. I've tried Subscribestar. I've tried Subscribestar. I don't know. Nothing feels as solid of a platform, despite all of its problems. And there are problems. Nothing feels as safe or as solid as Patreon right now.
Yeah, and we tried Subscribestar too, and it was mostly like, when you're in the beginning, you try to cater to like almost everybody, right? You're like, oh, you have a problem. And we had some people that it was during the Jordan Peterson and that era when he left. We had a bunch of people that like, I don't want to support Patreon, but I love you guys. And so I launched a Subscribestar, and it was a pain in the ass to like post here and respond here. And then like back then, you're on every forum every day, you know, checking texts and stuff, messages, and it just got to be too much for like a single individual, you know. So, and I never seen Subscribestar, you know, really jump off since then. I know some people still have it, but
it didn't feel like a thriving platform when I started using it.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like there's much that I stood to gain from doing a full switch over.
Well, do you remember like when they started? There was another one started called Hatreon. It was at that like same period of time, but I think Stormfront was on Patreon too for some reason, and they got kicked off, and then they started a Hatreon, and then I think we got some emails being like, come over to us, and then I'm like, no, what a horrible name. And then Subscribestar, obviously. But yeah, but how did so I'll get into like, how did you get started? That's like my interesting thing. Like, how did you get started in this?
Two new interests converging at the same time. So before this, I worked as a systems administrator for my local government. Yeah. And you know, we had downtimes, and I would want to fill those downtimes with, you know, my interests that would have gotten me fired for sure. So for me, the best way to do that was to read. Right.
Okay.
So I was consuming a lot of erotic literature. This was back when ASSTR was still functional, and you know, we were really going down the rabbit hole with some of this stuff. Yeah. And one of my favorite authors was a guy named Wanderer, Wandrer.
Okay.
And I don't know what it was about it, but his stories and his ideas and the way his content came together just really stuck with me. And at the same time, I started discovering Twine games, which were perfect to play at the office because it was white text on a black background.
Oh yeah, okay.
And you could play it on your phone in vertical mode, and
yeah, none the wiser.
So, and when I was a kid, I used to read a ton of those Choose Your Own Adventure books, the Goosebumps ones.
Okay, yes.
Particularly.
Yes.
You know, you go left, turn to page 48, go right, keep reading, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I started getting really into Twine. I've been a hobbyist game developer since QBasic. And I started consuming a ton of content.
Yeah.
I started dabbling in the engine, and I started getting to this point where all these games that I'm playing to scratch a particular itch, they're all getting right there. They're getting so close, almost perfect, but then there's some shortcoming somewhere. And the two big ones for me at the time were Free Cities, a super involved simulation game.
I remember Free
Twine.
Cities. Yeah, that was in Twine. I didn't. That was okay.
That's in Twine.
Yeah.
I've got all the source code over here. It's available now, and man, one day, and Perverted Education, which was I want to say the most popular Twine game at the time. I think we're still trying to play catch up to Perverted Education on TF Game Site.
I found TF Game Site a long time ago too. Like it was one of those things like someone's like, you're not go promote on TF Game Site. I'm like, what's TF Game Site? And I jump on there and I'm like, what? There's this whole like, you know, new genre or new fetish just right in my face. And I was like, holy crap, this is nuts. And like it was a really involved, really well run community. Like, and I jumped in there today just because I, talking to our mutual guy Haseo there, and I jumped back in there and it's same layout, same everything, and still very active.
Nothing has changed. They're still running events. The community boards are still the same. It's a really great community. It's really a great place to get noticed. So after playing all these almost perfect games, I finally decided to put my money where my mouth was and put something out there. And I spent a night over the weekend just whipping something up, and I posted to the TF Game Site, fully expecting to wake up the next day just getting torn to shreds. And that didn't happen. So I spent another day on it, another day, and now here we are.
There we go. So, are you full time now? Is this a full time gig for you?
I am lucky enough to be able to make this my full time gig now.
Awesome. That's always the goal. I mean, for SR7 and ourselves, we jumped in 2 feet forward, and like literally it was it or nothing, right? It was like this, we're gonna make it or break it, and thankfully like we've made it over the years. But it's one of those things that like being able to do it every day, is awesome, but at the same time there does come some downsides. I mean, you just mentioned about thinking you were gonna get ripped to shreds. Like how do you take actually getting ripped to shreds when it does happen? Because it happens every time you release a new update, you're getting just torn apart by somebody.
Well, I mean, look at my game on TF Game Sites, or God forbid, F95.
We won't. I don't want to talk about F95 too. We can go into F95 in a bit here. I don't want to start too much shit.
They're a great people, and I love them. And without them, my game wouldn't be half as popular as it is now. Thanks, F95.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Also, they're very opinionated.
Yes.
There's in my game actually did have a particular snafu early on in development that was real fun to navigate. So in terms of negative feedback, though, once I started actually taking this seriously, and I didn't jump in 2 feet first. I was all pinky toes. I kept working my full-time job for about 2.5, 3 years. While also working on the company in all my free time and some office hours, because it's all coding, right?
Yeah.
Before I finally took the plunge, but I knew as soon as I started taking it seriously, I'm never going to make everyone happy. Every decision that I make is going to upset somebody to some degree, and I'm posting on the internet.
Yeah, when you become. Yeah, when you make yourself open, it's like, here, take shots at me,
So I'll be honest. I am very sensitive. I do take criticism, not hard, but seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it. But going in online, I really made it an effort. I really made an effort to just take it all for what it is and not let it bother me too much. any decision that I'm going to make for the game is going to be my decision. And if the next decision that I make is the decision that tanks my game, then I probably shouldn't be doing what I'm doing in the first place. And you're going to get a lot of people that hate your game, and a lot of people who want it to be a different. That's the one. It's people who want your game to be a completely different game. That's always the big one.
The thing is, they hate it, but then they just can't stop playing it. It's like they just can't. You know, we get that all the time. These guys like, and it's recycled arguments. After 7 years, there's not a new criticism we have not heard. You know.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they're like, hey, you know, for us it's same body, different head. It's like, oh, thanks, man. Thanks for telling me. Like, this is 700 times, you know, and.
That being said, my latest negative review was packaged in a Christmas poem. So
that's awesome. There we go.
I guess.
The effort, right? A for effort.
Yeah.
For effort. I mean,
if you're gonna shit on my product, be creative.
Yeah, be creative. There you go. Yeah. For us, I got my first. So I wasn't really like in this area ever before until like SR7 and myself have been best friends since high school. So I got thrown right in, and I'm like, oh, where are they talking about his stuff? Like, we need to market this stuff, and is 4chan, like the most toxic place in the world. And like anybody who's ever been on 4chan long enough, you realize that you can like tell the anons and who's the same anon typing, and it would just like after a while it would ruin my day. Like it would just, I go on there and I try to like defend a criticism or even promote something, and you just get shit on because you're there as a creator. But they pick their favorites, right? And
yeah,
after a while, that's what it is. And a lot of people are like, we get criticisms like, oh, they just stay in their little bubble. Well, we stay in our little bubble because, you know, it's not like we want a pat on the back every time, but I don't want to hear the same shit all the time either. You know, I do go on F95 and I do look almost daily, but I'm looking at big picture. You know, I'm looking at what people are saying, like the people that put in effort, you know. I want to see what their criticisms are. And even if they're always critical, like at least I take a look, boil it down, and pass it up the chain, you know?
And you got to know how to look at things like, is this person just complaining, or is this actually a shortcoming in the game or in the project that I should look at?
Yeah.
And then even still, even if it is a shortcoming, there's a point where you need to dig your heels in and say, well, this is my vision, this is my project, this is how it's going to be, and that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
I was lucky actually working the job that I did for as long as I was, because it taught me how to write an email. I had to learn to be very diplomatic. I had to learn to translate problems between people. I had to learn to be extremely professional.
Yeah.
And I treat this business the same way that I treated my last job, and a lot of people go into this, you know, like a frat bro, and that doesn't work. And I think one thing that's gotten me as far as I have is, you know, being an adult in the adult community and being able to communicate with people diplomatically and patiently, and then go cry about it when I log off.
I know, yeah. We had a falling out once with another creator that we invested a significant portion of income to try to build something. And I went into their Discord after we announced peacefully between the two parties, like, you know, this is what's gonna happen. We brokered a deal and we said, okay, we're just gonna part ways. We're all cool, right? So all of a sudden on our Discord, we heard a bunch of people creating drama. So I went over there and I started talking to them. And like when I left, they're like, SmokeShank's a really nice guy, but he's too much of a businessman and too political, so fuck him. And I was like, really? Okay, well, whatever. Like, and I spent 2 hours like getting shit on, you know, and trying to be like, hey guys, like we're not the bad guy and he's not the bad guy. We're all cool, you know. But it's just what it is being a creator.
And actually, funny story about 4chan. So here's my admission of the day to the community.
There you go.
I very seldom venture out into the community. I sit in the community Discord and I read messages there. I don't read off topic. I don't have the bandwidth. and I follow the community for better or worse in our Discord, and I follow it on my website that I run and the Patreon. Very rarely do I go off into like F95 or other communities. So it's always when I first discovered F95, it was surreal because I stumbled into a 100-page thread about my game.
Yeah, and people have just been talking about it for a long time,
and I had no idea. And this isn't even the only community that's happened in. So I got a ping from Hiseo one day a couple years ago telling me, "Hey, your game got banned from 4chan."
You got banned from 4chan? You got banned?
Which, one, didn't know was possible.
Yeah, I didn't know that was possible.
Two, didn't know I was on 4chan. And three, frankly, I think that is the highlight of my career.
They should make a trophy for that.
Will ever top that.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, 4chan should come out with YouTube has those like arrows and like the plaques. You should have a plaque like the game was banned on 4chan. So the shit that they want, the shit that's been on there, like, oh god.
My understanding of the situation is that a thread got started on the game and something in it got people arguing so fiercely over so many pages that the mods just shut the game down and said, we're not talking about this game anymore.
Creating a passionate fan base, that's how you hook people. And they're just like probably arguing about like, story or some people defending you and stuff like that. And like, that's hilarious.
I never got to see it.
Yeah. What was your first take when you went on F95? Like when you first saw it, what was your first take? Like I knew about F95 like as it started because like we know the guy who runs it, like, and I have communication with him. Not much, but I mean, I made an effort to try to like get ownership of our thread, but we had a lot of problems with mods on there, and obviously the overall theme on that forum doesn't really jive with the way we run our Patreon. So, but like, what was your first thought when you went on there and you saw that thread? Did you think it was a toxic environment, or did you think it was welcoming?
So my first thought when I found F95 is, all right, people are pirating my game. Mm-hmm. I've made it.
Yeah.
that was how I knew that I made it as a developer, when people were pirating my free game.
Free game. They go through efforts, those guys.
And at the time, it was small enough that I could follow the thread and read through it, and it was interesting. The people were a lot more opinionated there than in other communities. TF Game site I was part of for a good while before I stopped managing that forum thread. It was people liked my patch notes, which is really all I could ask for. And people were playing the game, and I, for the most part, I was overtaken by how strange it was, like walking into a room that people have spent the last 2 weeks talking about you in, that you didn't know existed.
Did you make a post, or did you just kind of just crept? Is that what you did, or did you make a post? And
I crept for a bit. I want to say that I've dropped a couple of posts.
Yeah.
I've definitely dropped one very large post. And if anyone wants to go back in time and see that bit of drama, one, it's my shining achievement in diplomacy, and two, it's probably the biggest shit hitting the fan moment for the company.
Yeah.
But we navigated it. See, I try to be hands off. With the community. If they want to fight and argue, if they want to talk shit, if they want to call something a horrible feature or whatever, usually people yell the loudest when they don't like something.
Yeah, that's what we see them as like a small, loud group,
Yep.
That's it. They're just extremely loud, and only there,
The vocal minority.
Vocal minority. That's the words. Yeah.
But at one point, when this whole situation happened, the thread became so heated and toxic that I had to to drop in and address the community there. And I think it worked out well. People got an answer. It might not have been the one that they wanted, but it was I think a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Basically, it was a situation where a change was announced to the game, and a lot of people really disliked this change. And I had to say, well, this is the change.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You either bite that bullet, something you want to do, you bite it, and your real followers and your real ardent supporters, not people that are supporting because of a character or supporting because of a story arc, but your real supporters of you and you as a creator, they stick around and you build off that. We had that same issue with SU. We jumped into Path of Kings. It wasn't really working out the way we were doing, and we worked a way around being able to get SU out still. And we had a lot of people that stuck around. Yeah, on our Patreon, you saw us drop 50% in 1 month. Like it was like I was looking for another job. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I thought this was over. Like, you know, but yeah, and for me, like going on F95 the first time, we had like a real internal piracy manifesto, I guess. And it was more like a series of questions of like, why are people pirating, or are they pirating because they can, or can we convert them? Like it turned into a conversion strategy. So we got a community member urged us to go on there and try to like, hey, convert some of these people over. And at that time we had a really like this guy on our Discord, he literally just got surpassed this year. And this was like 3 or 4 years ago this happened. And he just got surpassed for like posts on our Discord, Mr. Freeze. I'll give him a shout out. He's not there anymore, and he hasn't been for years because of this. But went on there and tried to like convert people to come over, and it was a period in time that we were just completely the like most toxic place, Discord and F95. Like we had people supporting us on Patreon because our Discord was toxic. Like you're losing money because people are toxic. And we did a big overhaul to our community, and we worked hard, and we turned it into a more of a, like a supportive spot, and more of like where people like I was looking on there today. I have a couple people that like post regularly, and they're like, I don't support the game. I just like the people here. And I was like, that's wild. I never even thought of that. Like I never thought someone would not like support, but they just like the people here. And I thought that was pretty cool too. But
yeah, I started noticing that on our Discord as well, which is great, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as we're concerned, so we have a pretty explicit, no piracy discussion.
Yeah. Same here
on our Discord, and we don't even get particularly upset about it. The real problem with piracy, with the company, is that the game itself is a little fragile. So anytime it ends up on another website, on another hosting service in someone else's hands, it breaks. It breaks gloriously.
Shit.
So
and then you get fucking blamed for that.
Yes. We had a problem with people coming in saying your game is completely borked. And we're like, well, send us a screenshot. And they'll send us a screenshot of the game sitting in like in one of those, random porn game site hosting services. I'm like, well, that's why you can't do that. So now every time someone comes in with a problem that they shouldn't be having, our first question is, well, where are you playing the game? What link are you using?
Yeah, fuck. That's horrible. Like, we don't have that issue. And I couldn't imagine. That would be just, like, you're getting blamed for shit's not even your fault.
It was right? we did a lot of tail chasing before we finally locked down what the problem was.
Yeah, because you probably went into your game and tried to find out what's going wrong, right? And talk to other people. Oh, my God. No, that's brutal. Yeah, I guess at that point, then handling piracy would be something you want to, like, look to. In your direction, it's completely different. Yeah.
People are supporting the game, because they want to see the game finish. They want to see the game grow. They want to see, more projects come of it, which is fantastic. At the end of the day, it is a free game. So if you want the newest features, you wait a week or two after the release of the latest update, and it's yours, full stop. But it gets really difficult, even with a free product.
Yeah.
to support it when you're getting screwed from the jump.
That was our big problem with monetization in general. Was really hard to pinpoint how to monetize. Like, you cannot stop somebody from just re-uploading it, right? Like, they download it.
Exactly.
Oh, cool. I'm just gonna go re-upload it somewhere else. And I mean, I think our fastest was 5 minutes after dropping. It was on F95 once. Normally now it's like 15, 20, but it was 5 minutes one day. I was like, oh my god, guys, like really?
And my guilty pleasure was changing the links to dev builds every couple minutes, because people were posting those on F95. So like, oh, I'll just change the file name and it'll break the link.
Yeah, we actually got our mega banned just recently because of like them just being lazy and resharing the link. And our mega was getting full after 7 years of builds. So I purchased the premium, and I didn't realize you got like commissions. So we had like $100. I looked in there one day. I'm like, why is there $100 balance in our mega account? And it was like an affiliate link because people were signing up for premium through us. And I was like, oh well, this is pretty cool. I didn't know we're diversifying income a little bit, and then boom, banned. And then we went to Sam, the F95 guy, and we jumped on his NOP, and then that was an amazing service. Obviously, I mean, if he offered it to a lot more people, or even created something for us devs that we could rehost everywhere, because like hosting a mega or even like through Patreon, you don't want to put anything on Patreon servers anyways, just in case they want you to take stuff off.
Right. Yeah.
But then his stuff went down too, and it's like, oh, where do you go now? You just got to keep making mega accounts. Like, this is brutal.
Yeah.
So
I haven't run into a hosting problem yet, but yeah. So I have a question for you, going back to an earlier topic. Have you ever put out a feature that you had to walk back, or a change that you've had to walk back over either community backlash or just deciding it was a bad idea?
There's currently there was a few instances where features have created issues long term for development. When we talk about the cells and then costumes, unfortunately, okay. And then animations as well. Those all became like a workflow issue or a workload issue. So I guess animations would be something. They're in the game. They're might not. We don't ever say never, because you never know. Like, SR7's a creative guy, and he might just get the itch, or the technology might come around and he can just create an animation in a day. And but they were an event where we had a Raven update, and he worked tirelessly on it, and unfortunately the animation was borked, and that was literally like 90% of the build. So it went out. I think I don't know if we were on bi-monthly then or monthly. Probably bi-monthly. I can't remember how long we've been on bi-monthly. But anyways, it's probably bi-monthly. And then people were just absolutely bitching because they got literally just a quarter of a build, which was sprinkled in content, because it was like, this is the feature, this is it. Everyone's going to be happy. And then yet all this, and it didn't go through. There was another really bad bug we had at the beginning, the save bug, where we were doing monthly updates, and it was just absolutely insane. And we got a workaround with it. Unfortunately, it's not the greatest workaround, especially using a add-on like Fungus, which is, I think, 7 years old. He hasn't updated in 7 years. So, I mean, like, it has no... It's literally like held together with rubber bands. But yeah, I think if I remember distinctly, it's that Raven animation. And then obviously costumes, and then cells not being completed. People were really upset. And then we had an old marketing guy come in and boiled down what the community were looking for. And the shout out to all the marketing guys out there that do a good job, SEO especially, boiling down.
Service you didn't know you needed.
Yeah. Like, boiling down what the community wants outside your creative, like outside your emotional eyes, because like I find myself a logical based thinker, but like when it comes to a project that I've invested 7 years promoting, pushing, growing, doing everything, it's like it's as much my baby as SR7's. And when I see people shitting on it, I just want to punch them in the mouth, like, it's like my kid. But yeah, so they boiled down that the sales were not getting completed. There was lack of content, and the game was getting flushed out in a lot of places. And then now it's like it always moves to something else. It's like the bordello in the game. People are clamoring for more content with that, which is coming, guys. Okay, it's coming. But other than that, I think those are the two big ones. I don't think we've ever changed direction. I mean, there was the Path of Kings where we got a takedown on SU, and then we switched gears to a new game, like an OC game. But SR7 being the creative guy, he's just like, his mind was on SU, and he picked it back up, and he was just flowing, and then we had to find a creative workaround to be able to make that work again. But yeah, so I mean, trials and tribulations after 7 years, like it's tough to like pinpoint a lot of stuff. I can remember a lot of the drama. I can remember a lot of that stuff. Having to like fire somebody for the first time, stuff like that. It's not fun. It sucks. Fuck, it sucks. Or my first time banning somebody when we launched Discord. I just wanted to ban somebody. I was like, I've never banned anybody. And then a couple of our mods banned a couple people, and I'm like, oh man, why didn't I get? Because they were using like racial slurs as names and stuff. And then finally, like, some guy,
the easy ones.
Yeah, some guy came in and was like, said something as a joke. I didn't know he was in a Discord for a long time talking in another channel with somebody, and I'm like, what did you say? And I just banned him. And then they were like, whoa, what are you doing? And I was like, oh shit, sorry. I went and apologized to him, and I was like, oh, ever since then I was like, okay, well, I got my ban out of the way. It wasn't the right ban, but I got my first ban out of the way.
It feels good as we thought it was gonna.
Yeah, now our ban list is like 200 people. It's like massive. Most of it's bots, but yeah. Let's move on to like some personal stuff. You got some hobbies, right? Like we talked about it briefly in the call.
Oh yeah. I mean, your typical ones: traveling, cooking. I do some woodworking. Cool. Up until very recently, I was collecting and restoring retro game consoles. Due to financial reasons, that is no longer a hobby that I have.
It got huge, right? Like it started to pick up. I remember a few years ago, I started looking into it a little bit more, and I dug up, like I got SR7's old GameCube. I started digging up my old stuff too, and then realized I was like, holy shit, this is like huge,
Well, my kid came to me years ago. I want to say probably 6 or 7 years ago, digging around the garage. And she had found my old SNES Mini and my copy of Super Mario World with the manual and a stack of my old Sega Genesis games. And she was like, do these work? And I'm like, I could probably make them work. And I did, and it just snowballed. So that turned into, I'm going to recreate the Blockbuster experience, but for my kids. And that turned into just a giant wall. People on my Discord have seen the pictures. Yeah. Just a wall of old video games. I started making custom cases. I took all the PS1 games out of their jewel cases and put them in DVD cases just for uniformity.
Nice.
I dove into video upscaling, SCART cables, all that. And then they didn't care. They grew up and Minecraft was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter plays Roblox like constantly. I didn't realize like kids now, like when we grew up, it was like kids played house. But now kids play house in Roblox or Minecraft, like girls.
See,
like, what?
I always thought that I feel like I have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in gaming, right? I thought I did. My kids and all of their friends play Roblox, and I don't know what Roblox is.
I didn't know either.
I've played Minecraft with them. I played all the other games that have come out. I played Among Us with them. I don't get Roblox. And good on you if you do and you love it, but I don't understand.
The only game on Roblox I play, because I got it on the Xbox Series X there, because once in a while she wants to play with a controller, which is an absolutely horrible port for one. It's made for like touchscreen and mouse and like using a controller, and every game has different like button layouts. There's a game called Broken Bones, and you just take a guy and you throw him off a cliff, and then you see how many bones you can break. And it's just like, I'm like, oh, these like a reminiscent of like a mobile game. Back in the day, that paper toss, you just like flick the paper and the wind would throw it around. You could just play it for a while. They all
look like mobile games.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it is. Yeah. And there's people making tons of money on there. Like my daughter, that's all she wanted was Robux gift cards for Christmas, right?
It's still all mine want. I mean, it makes Christmas easy.
Yeah.
But...
Like, what'd you buy? Some wings for your, like, what the? Come on, you know. But
I can't get them cool gifts anymore.
Yeah. So, but if you could go to your, like, do you still have your collection of like old retro games?
No.
No. Oh, you got rid of it.
I sold off everything. I did up to the most recent generations. Well, I mean, the big nagging thing was, you know, we kept hopping around. It was hard to keep taking it with us. I eventually just left it with my dad, and it started collecting dust. And then there was a constant nagging. Do you remember when emulators were like, oh, wow, I finally found something that can kind of emulate N64?
Yeah.
And that was a big deal. I've been out of the emulator game for a long time. And I finally ducked back in just to see what's up. And I'm like, oh, we're emulating PS2 at 60 FPS at 4K. What do I have my PS2 for anymore?
Yeah.
So I finally took my whole collection and I ripped what I could. I have the board equipment to do that. And I pulled it all down, and now I have it all packaged into a little emulator box.
Yeah. That's the one thing. Emulators were like a big change. Like, I remember I loved Shadowrun on the Genesis version, not the SNES version, because they were different. Like, imagine then making the same game, but like one was different than the other.
Yep.
And
I had the Genesis Shadowrun.
Yeah. And I was so bummed when they turned it into turn-based strategy. I'm like, I'm not an XCOM guy. I'm like, come on. I just want to like run around and shoot shit and hack stuff. But I found an emulator, and that was like, that's the game. That's the game I put on there just to scratch that itch. Do you have a game like that you just like once in a while you're like, oh, I just want to play it, nostalgia's sake? Or
I have two.
Mega
Man X and Super Metroid.
Oh.
I can fire up either one of those. Just beat Mega Man X real quick, or run through Super Metroid and see how far I get before I get bored. Those are my two mindless games that I can throw on and feel good about.
Sweet. Yeah, I've been meaning, like, I always have like a Mega Man collection in my like Steam list or like wish list that I'm like, oh, I gotta get to that. But I mean, like, there's always too many. There's always too many games to play, right? And not enough time in a day or a week, you know, to get.
I discovered GDQ years ago. Games Done Quick.
Okay. Oh yeah, I love them on Twitch. Yeah. They're awesome.
Yeah, I was absolutely hooked when I first saw it. I don't even know which one it was, but it was back when Caleb Hart was streaming, and I watched the Mega Man X speedrun. Didn't know speedrunning was a thing before this, and I'm watching him play this game. I'm like, I can do that. I can't do that, but watching people play these games differently had me going back and trying similar things, and that just it's interesting. Playing a game with intent to speedrun is completely different than playing a game casually. And in a lot of ways, it makes the game a lot easier to beat because you learn to game the game. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're like min-maxing then, right? Like, you're literally min-maxing every movement. You're looking at it's just like a game inside a game then.
Yeah, it's like every room, you know, playing it casually, well, it's, I got to jump around and dodge all the things and you know, shoot the things before, you know, whatever. But when you're speedrunning it, you realize, oh, this works the same way every time. All I have to do is move to these 3 spots and I'm through the room. I've cheesed the whole thing and it's now completely inconsequential.
What amazes me with it, I'm like watching and I'm like thinking, how many people played this game and found that glitch but didn't realize it's like its value until like speedrunners are literally looking for those glitches. And that community is like, how do you go about doing that? Like, to me, it was just like wild, you know, like to document those glitches, you know.
Watch an Ocarina of Time speedrun. Yeah. It's the most gloriously broken thing.
The Elden Ring ones recently were like, what the heck? It jumps up and then torrents flying through the air and like, what the heck? Like, it's insane.
And now you got games like Celeste that are built around the idea that people will be speedrunning them.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's real cool. And you were saying too, you're getting married, right? Congratulations this summer, correct?
Yep.
Is
2 months from now, actually.
nice, nice.
Not even making it to summer.
No. Oh wow. And
Nope.
are you doing like a I got married myself last year. Last year? Yeah, last year, year before. Sorry.
You better
Or
know.
one of the pandemic ones, 2021, I think it was. Yes, 2021. At least we're in 2023 now. So like the pandemic's kind of over for you now. This is are you doing like at home or are you destination wedding? What are you doing?
It's not a destination wedding. We are leaving the country for the honeymoon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So my first marriage, this is number two.
Yeah.
It was very quick and dirty. It was great.
Yeah.
But courthouse, some friends, dinner, hotel, wedding.
Yeah.
So this will be my first actual wedding. It's been a lot of fun planning it. Still keeping it small,
That's
local.
good. Yeah.
And then the day after, we're shipping off for Tokyo.
Sweet. Oh, Tokyo. Awesome, man. How long are you going for?
3 weeks.
No work? Are you shutting everything off?
Nuts.
Like you turning off the emails and the Discord and stuff, or what?
I've made a horrible mistake. I am not going to Tokyo for 3 weeks. I will be working diligently on the game for the last week of March, first 2 weeks of April. Don't even worry about it. New content's coming, promise.
Yeah, we never take Christmas off, guys, ever.
I used to be able to take breaks and feel good about it. And now anytime, like even earned breaks, like even Christmas, I didn't work for all of Christmas week. I went out of town to visit my fiance's family. And every one of those days was an anxiety-riddled, what's going on with my game? I need to code something.
Oh. Yeah, this was the first Christmas in 7 years I literally did not go on Discord or check any socials or emails or nothing. Corporate stuff getting emailed to me. I'm like, too bad, I'm off. I email a lawyer and it's like, oh, we're not back in the office for 3 weeks. It's like, okay, I got to have some sort of stuff like that. And I did it in the summer. I think I took 2 weeks off in the summer too for the first time and just kind of shut off everything. And it was refreshing, but also kind of like, what am I walking into when I came back? The house didn't explode.
And that's one of the things that I do miss about working like a desk job, working for somebody else, which I just could not imagine doing again now.
Yeah.
But I do miss being able to take time off and just being okay with that. A holiday rolls around, great, I get an extra day off, and then I come back to work and it's business as usual. It doesn't feel that way anymore. This is my business. I am in charge of it. I run it. I operate it. If I'm taking a day off, that's time that I'm not working. It took me sitting myself down and telling myself that I am not working weekends anymore.
Yeah,
like a year into development. That weekends are going to be my time with my family, and I'm not going to work them anymore. But even like kids' holidays, they got MLK Day off last week. I did not. Or was that this week? Oh my God, that was this week. I work over their holidays. I very seldom take time off, and even speaking realistically for this upcoming trip that I'm taking. What that means for me is that leading up to that trip is I'm going to be putting in 10-hour days to make sure that I have set myself up in a situation that I feel okay walking away from for a couple of weeks.
Do you have a development crunch? Like, do you have like right near the time when you release your build, do you guys have do you have a crunch? Do you go through that yourself?
I sure try not to. We recently moved to a release every other month
it's
schedule.
Better.
It is better, and now it's even better because parallel to that, we're working on implementing artwork into the game. So now every off month, I'm releasing a progressed version of the artwork demo.
Okay.
For the game, so it's kind of a nice thing to fill those gaps. Of course, my trip does not fall on an art demo month.
Yeah.
But yeah, we moved to a 2-month release window. On a good month or on a good cycle, I'll be feature complete 2 weeks before release. If I really put in the effort, if I have found the time to write, and being creative working in a creative field is really difficult because so much of it is contingent on your ability to write creatively. You can't show up and have a bad day.
Yeah, that's like one of my.
Be in an off mood.
Yeah, one of my main jobs is like I like look at SR7's posts during the week and see how he's doing, and if I'm like, are you okay, buddy? Like, you need to take a step back. Like, don't stress yourself out. Like, we're good, right? Like, because you need to make sure that like you're not. Those creative juices are always flowing. You got to be in that environment, and we worked ourselves so that he can stay in that zone, as much as possible.
And sometimes we do that. Sometimes I'll be ahead of the game, and that's great. Sometimes I'll be so ahead of the game that I can start working on the next development cycle a little early, so that I can breathe a little easier for the next cycle. More often than not, I have a self induced crunch time leading up. I mean, there have been times recently where I'm working on the game, 10 o'clock at night the day before release, just to get that last feature in, just get that last bug fix in. And I try really hard to avoid that because it's no fun for anybody.
Yeah, when it's crunch, I just leave SR7. We don't even message. We're just like, you let us know. We're like hands off. You do what you need to do, man. Like I do come see him sometimes because we do watch like UFC together and stuff like that. And we'll see him and be like, "How you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, it's okay. I've been tired." And it's like, "Okay, he's like, I took a day off." It's like, yeah, you could take more than that, man. Like if it comes out, it comes out, right? That's the point. And when you're on those schedules for development, it's people hold them to you because like Patreon in itself isn't necessarily designed well in the way it's marketed, because it's marketed to like a giant creative base, right? Artists, musicians, podcasters, right? So it's marketed so that everybody can use it. So, here's our little cookie jar, right? Like put your money in and then we'll give you content for that, right? So some people feel like they're paying for content, and then we changed it to like a subscription. So now you're giving us money every month to get intimate access to us, to get these rewards for an ongoing development. And our goals are to get you so many updates a year, which we do every year. And on time is the best. Like we want to be on time all the time. And, deliver you high quality content. And sometimes, 2 weeks late, it's got to come out, right? Like, but you're still getting, like, no matter what, you're still going to get that much content every year. And that's the goal. And we would love to get off of the 2 months, but unfortunately, because of the way Patreon's designed, it's not feasible, I'd love to get onto the Summertime Saga and release when you can release. But it's just...
I think we'd all love to get onto that train.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you get people that would be like, "Oh, you're milking it. Like you're intentionally doing less work." Like,
yep.
Fuck. What the fuck? What the fuck is that? What? Like, I don't get that.
How can you have not finished your game yet?
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing too. Like
clearly, you're dragging your feet to get more money out of the community. You're never actually going to finish the game because you don't want to.
Yeah. Shoot me, guys, but your story doesn't end till you die. So why does ours have to fucking end at some point? Like, why?
Like, I want to finish the company. I want to finish the company more than I think people think I want to finish the company, because I need to work on something else.
Yeah.
I've been working on this for years
story
now.
arcs. Yeah, story arcs should end and stuff like that. But the idea of like the company in general doesn't have to ever end. Like the platform it's on, maybe like end that one and start something else, but it doesn't ever have to end.
The company too exists. It is on the whiteboard. It is on project boards. I want to get to that. I want to deep dive into that. We have some great ideas for that. Some big changes, some really fun systems and things. I can't do that until the company's done, though.
That's what sucks too. Yeah.
But I can't just rush to the finish line because I put this much work into it. I want to make sure it comes out right. But I want to make sure it comes out. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, Patreon goes through these, like, ebbs and flows. Like, we have times when all you need to do is do pay a good artist a commission to draw you, like, a promo piece.
and you can make $500, right? You know, there's guys like, and they turned out to be really well. Sad Crab, they did this. They got a really nice commissioned art piece, threw it out. 2 years later, I don't know, maybe a year. I might be bullshitting. You can check me on this. But then they put out a game, and their game's really good, right? But at first, we're like, holy shit, like that's all you need to do is just hype it up. But then Patreon goes through a change, and it's not pay for hype anymore. You gotta deliver. You know, and that's when we see a lot of growth. It's like, oh, these guys are delivering. They're delivering. Now we're getting to another stage where it's like everyone's getting tired of the deliverers. Now there's more hype, you know, for projects and things like that. And the thing is too is like you said, you want to get onto something else, like Steam. I mean, we probably won't ever get on Steam, but we've been wanting to get back on Newgrounds for like 7 years. Like we just want to go back and support that platform because it helped build us. And when you have a project like the company or SU, that's like there's something called the Boston Consulting Group Matrix, and it talks about how you handle projects or different companies and stuff like that. And you have one that brings in your revenue, and that's the one you have to the business that keeps the lights on. That's the one you focus on all the time, and that's SU for us. So then you always feel like it's pulling time or money or anything away from another project, and we've tried to sub out for additional projects, but on the internet it's fucking impossible, man. You know, like guys take days off, or they're not available at time, or you think they're further along, or you know, managing like distance wise is a lot more difficult when you're dealing with subcontractors than it is, you know.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm having my own take on that problem with. I don't know how Sunset operates. I have severe trust issues. I am the sole coder and the sole writer for the game.
You guys are very similar.
I have another writer who I work with, and she's great, and I let her or I rely on her to fill in content gaps that I'm comfortable giving to someone else. Mm-hmm. But that's hard for me. That's really hard for me. And I look at the submissions, you know, when I get them back, and half my brain is always like, do I want to rewrite just a little bit of it so that it fits? No, this is her writing. The community's going to love it. It's fine. I'm being neurotic.
Yeah.
But that's really hard.
And then you got deadlines. And then you're managing the deadline, so you have to make sure that their work that takes time, like checking in, what are you doing, how's it going, you know, and then making sure they meet their deadline, making sure that when they deliver to you it's acceptable in a form. And we run marketing, like, because you're with Haseo, his marketing is probably exactly the same thing as ours. You start making pushes early in the development cycle. You start showing some of your work early so people think you're working. So people are expecting, oh, when's this next build? They get an idea. For us, it's like the art streams on Picardo, and they're starting to get an idea what's coming in the game. They hear SR7 talking. And if we had another artist, because we dabbled in talking to a bunch of people, maybe about a colorist we've talked about maybe an additional programmer. We talked about all that stuff, but when it boils down to it, like, if they don't deliver, we don't, right? So when it hinges on somebody else like that, and it's just, you can't even plan 6 months away, because like, how are you supposed to make those two paths intersect? Like, the world's turning, like, things happen.
And I'm that guy even when it comes to delegation. Like I will only delegate work that I know I can afford to not have back on time, mm-hmm. or that I know that I'll be able to write if I don't get it when I need it. And that's not a great trait, but it's hard. And, you know, I'm as the only coder, you know, I kind of, low key rely on people in the community to find problems and find bugs and tell me exactly where those are in the code so I can go fix them.
Yeah. Yeah. We use that. Unfortunately, when we first launched SU, I remember one commenter is like, oh, what, we're just paying to be testers. And I was like, thinking about it in my head, I was like, I guess maybe, but not like, but that's in general anyways. When you buy a new AAA game, you're still playing it to test. They're going to do bug fixes after you've played it, you know, but like, really, we have an internal group of testers now. that we trust, and we go through a process of like watching diligently when we add a new one to see if there's any leaks. We have not had one yet, but those testers are great. But I mean, still the community finds stuff, you know.
Oh yeah. The most amusing thing, though, I think, is we have a development build tier, where people in this tier on Patreon get semi-nightly, depending on where we are in development, builds of the game.
Okay.
And they're gonna be broken, they're gonna be incomplete, but it gives people a chance to play things that are in development. And really, the hope for that is by getting out these early builds to people, we get technical feedback quicker, and sometimes we do. Huge shout out to Nerdy Vanilla. You are almost solely responsible for the game being half as stable as it is now.
Awesome.
But what'll happen is and again, this is just amusing. We'll spend weeks putting out dev builds and hear nothing, no feedback, nothing back, no bug reports, nothing. And then as soon as that update goes live, just a mountain of bug reports and everything's broken. I'm like, well, if these were so obvious.
Yeah. Like one of our busiest channels is the bug channel. Like it's just constant, and a lot of it SR7 knows about. It's just like it's either a persistent problem or one that he's like, hey, well, I'm just gonna fix next build. And it's just like people pop in all the time because they're grabbing it from these different sites. They don't know the community, and that's their first interaction. Is they get in there and they want to like, hey man, I found a bug. Like, you fix this stuff, and it's nice. Like, want to be encouraging. You don't want to be like, oh, I've heard that like 8,000 times. But
yeah, I rely on those a lot, and I'm super thankful to people who not only give the bug report but actually tell me where the bug is occurring.
Yeah.
Because those are always fun. The thing is broke. Well, thank you. What thing and where?
Yeah, going to the community, like the community is like the absolute essential lifeblood of like what we do. Like it is, without them, there is no us, right? So like when we got onto Discord and started building our Discord, we spent like 12, 15 hours a day just chatting with like 5 people. And I remember talking to SR7 and be like, oh man, like this guy's like, he's not nice, he's rude, he's like toxic, maybe we should get rid of him. He's like, if we get rid of him, this is Mr. Freeze, if we get rid of him, it's gonna be dead. No one's talking, right? And you realize that like it takes a lot of time to build up that community, and they do a lot of work. Like every single emoji in our Discord is community made. We had community made guides for a while, and unfortunately those guys they leave or they just disappear. It's just the nature of the internet. And shout out, we're gonna be paying somebody to build a guide, so if you're interested, message me on Discord. But anyways,
that's actually a great segue.
Yeah. Oh well, then go ahead with the guide. But anyways,
when you're done,
when I'm done, yeah. The community is amazing, and now with this platform, I'm trying to reach out to the creator community, and trying to bring them together and stuff like that too, because we have channels like Eurodev and stuff like that on Discord. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I don't really frequent in there that much. But
I think I'm still part of that community.
Yeah, me too. But I don't frequent that much, But just trying to sit down and chat with people would be better. But anyways, to your segue about the guides, I guess.
Yeah. So, well, this is fantastic. I mean, I don't think a lot of people actually, put a not even a face, but like a person to the team.
Yes.
So this is really cool. I can't wait to see who else you can get on this.
Yeah. People are already slamming me with suggestions like nonstop, so it's good.
Perfect. For guides though, so our biggest problem when it comes to bug reports in the community is filtering out false positives. So the mindset that I went into building this game for, and that is people reporting bugs that aren't actually bugs. The mindset that I went into building this game is thinking about, because I'm a 90s kid, is thinking about, the arcades before the internet, people playing games before GameFAQs was a thing, before walkthroughs were readily available, where there was always this rumor of the secret character you can unlock, the noob Saibot, the Sheng Shenlong,
Mm-hmm.
the secret paths in the game, bringing Eris back to life, all of that, and I miss that. I miss people going into games not knowing what you can and can't do, and discovering things that you didn't think would be there, or creatively breaking the game in an allowable way,
Yeah.
or unlocking content that you didn't think would be unlockable. And the problem with that is I think that's great. The result the result is a deluge of how do I do X, and then people having 10 different answers and nobody being happy. And I've gone on record, and I'll go on record again as saying I have no intentions to ever supply a guide or a wiki for the company. It will not come from me. The community is more than welcome, and they do their best. And my games will.
Yeah, for us, it became a problem with like just questions in Discord, like people coming in and asking the same questions nonstop and having nowhere to point them, and it's just like it's making our Discord cluttered.
We made an FAQ channel for the really common questions, and I don't even feel good about that. It's giving way too much away, but it's something to point people towards. But yeah, everyone wants the guide, and they're welcome to build. The game is effectively open source. Yeah. So if anyone were so inclined, and I love it when our bug testers do this, they can just crack into it and look at the code and see how things are supposed to work, and what's going to trigger what, and what flags you need to set to unlock content paths. Yeah. They can do that. Anybody can do that. And it's pretty easy to read through. You will discover how bad of a coder I am if you do that. But you can do that. Yeah. But I have I tried to write a guide early on. There's so many variables. There's so many possible combinations of events. It's not going to happen.
This is not a good use of your time. No.
And I want people to stumble blindly through the game. I want people to have a different play experience from other people.
Yeah, we have some. We do a no spoilers, kind of like 2 changelogs. So one that has spoilers, one that doesn't. So people, because they're like, believe it or not, there's a decent segment of our user base that does not want spoilers. They go through brand new save every game, run through it again, cheats on, and then try to find that content. The changelog obviously helps guide people in the right directions. Yeah. But at the same time, like, they just love that, and we will not get rid of it. Like, there will never be just it'll have a spoiler free, changelog all the time. So.
And we'll answer questions as best we can. There's always someone. The community, my community's amazing when it comes to supporting each other, and I love that. Anyone can come in anytime. Someone messages me on Patreon or anywhere that's not Discord asking about the game, I will tell them to go to Discord, because they will get an answer immediately from somebody.
Yeah, I was talking to Haseo about that today. Yeah, I was talking to Haseo about that today, because like I noticed, like, when we drop a post on Patreon, 60 to 100, 200 likes, right? And I saw you put your post on, and I was like, well, it's not moving. He's got lots of guys. Like, what's not? And I talked to Haseo. I was like, I didn't watch the way our metrics were working, so I can't really compare. And he's like, no. The way his is designed is it's a TF site, and Discord together is where all your traction is. And I thought that was absolutely, really neat, because it just shows how dynamic you can create your community. Like, you don't have to go with the typical, Twitch comments, Patreon and stuff. You can have your wherever it is, where people are talking, where it's comfortable, and where you want to support the community. That's where people will go.
Everything gets posted on our Patreon, but functionally speaking, it's really little more than a payment platform for us. We try to keep everything within the community, mostly for easy access. And I think that works out really well. And I think we've developed a really good community because of it.
Yeah.
for sure.
Did you ever have problems with toxicity, or was it just because TF sites are so well moderated you never had to deal with that kind of stuff?
TF game site's never been an issue, except I have some of my best negative reviews there, which I encourage everyone to go read.
Yeah.
There have been times in Discord where we've had to calm the community down. So I think the company, in games, in the similar specific genres, oops, draw a very diverse crowd.
Yeah.
And I asked earlier, were there any changes that you've had to roll back in your game because of community feedback? And the only changes that we've ever rolled back in our game have had to do with nomenclature. The trans people weren't always called trans people.
Oh, okay, I see.
Community.
Yes. Okay.
So that was something that we could look at and say, okay, well, this isn't right anymore, and changing it has no impact on the game. So we're going to make the change
And
because
then, you got that.
Despite being
you're going woke. What's going on?
Well, despite being a very non-concentric porn game, at the same time, I want to invite everyone who would want to play it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So characters who are meant to be offensive are written offensive, and that stays in the game. People who have played John's content know full well that we're not shying away from being a bigoted asshole in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But things that don't need to be can and should be updated for the times. The problem is the times change on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So so the biggest issue that we get in Discord from time to time, and I won't give any specific examples or I will get canceled, are generally missteps. Somebody saying the wrong thing and the wrong people being on Discord at the wrong time. And one of our biggest rule on the Discord is never contribute to malice that which can be contributed to ignorance. People aren't trying to attack you.
Yeah.
People don't know. It's hard to keep up. I consider myself very, very progressive, very left leaning. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
And you're always going to offend somebody with something.
Yo, 100%.
And what's important is when that happens, don't take that as an attack. Explain it. Come out and say, hey, this is why this isn't okay anymore.
Yeah.
And talk about it. And 9 times out of 10, the offending party will go, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And it's fine.
Yeah.
But that 1 out of 10 times is when me and Hiseo and our other mods have to go in and hose down the channel because someone just can't say okay and move on.
Yeah, we have a politics channel, okay, and
oh no,
I know, right? Holy fuck! And honestly,
we made a Ukraine conflict channel.
Oh, so. Did you? Oh, okay, because it's been a lot quieter since the new president coming. I'm Canadian. We're Canadian, by the way, guys. So we watch with popcorn. We have our own drama here, but no one talks about us because we're just up here minding our business. But anyways, when the previous president Trump was in, that channel was bumping 24/7. There's always something to talk about, and at the beginning, the people that were in there, and we have a vast, diverse group of people. We got people from Hong Kong, Russia, Ukraine, Europe, and lots of Americans, right, and a couple Canadians in there. So it's quite an active channel, and it would turn into the classic political chat where it turned into personal attacks. So I had to go in there and literally put myself in the middle of it and be like, stop any personal attack, and put my views out there so that people would attack me so that I could be like, no, don't do that, right? And unfortunately, the people that can't handle discussion like that left. It's still very active to this day. Much less now. Obviously, it is not as crazy in the U.S. Politically. It is, but it isn't either. But anyways, that was one of those instances of
a lot
having
more
to go
boring
in.
at the top.
Yeah. you know, and but yeah, we had that like attack the topic, not the person, right?
Yeah.
And we lost people. We lost 5, 10, you know, Discord users that were like posting multiple times daily in there just because of that stuff. You know, the other stuff is like really weird porn fetishes that we get. Like furries, like are just like universally despised. Unfortunately, we like to make everything inclusive. So we have some guys that are into that stuff and they want to post it. And I don't know if they're posting it because they're a troll or they want to get a reaction or they're posting it because they generally want to. I don't know if there's anybody else in there that are into it, but those usually tend to bring up a lot of conflict because, oh, he's posting this, it's the wrong channel, and it's because they don't like that stuff, you know? It's like, okay, guys, like, you can police yourself. I don't want to have to come in there and tell you not to do stuff all the time like dad, you know? But
yeah, kink shaming is definitely something that we enforce not to do.
Yeah.
Again, because of that wide diversity. That hasn't been a problem, I don't think.
I wouldn't say it's a problem. It's more like they're community. Just like, don't post that here. Like that's like, obviously there's some stuff that's like really wrong. Like in Canada, lolly and stuff like that, you can get put on the sex offender list. Like I can lose my child from doing that stuff. Like it's considered child porn. Like you don't do that stuff. Yeah. Other stuff, it's like, okay, like we're open to it and stuff like that. And that leads me into a question I wanted to talk to you about because you're a parent, right? Do you have daughters or sons?
Oh, God help me, I have daughters.
Me too. I got another daughter on the way. She's coming in a month. How do you handle, like, because obviously this content does like more of the shadow fetishes, stuff that's like non-consensual, for instance, and it's not necessarily like I got my head stuck in a fucking dryer, come bone me, you know? Like, it's the real rape written shit. Like, how do you handle that as a father when you see that stuff? Like, or when you write, not necessarily, maybe you write it too, but how do you separate yourself from it? Do you see it as more of like a fantasy rather than...
So I will say that being a parent has definitely changed the way that I consume the media. Mm-hmm. There's things that I used to not bat an eye at, and now when I see certain things, you feel it a little, like that's not okay.
Yeah,
I'm still gonna fap to it, but it's not okay anymore.
Feel extra dirty,
but right now it's better.
Yeah.
So when I first started working on the game, and in the beginning I only worked on it at home. And also in the beginning, it was any work I did was explicitly text, mm-hmm. and neither of my kids could read, so I was in a pretty good place. So I could freely work and write, and it wasn't a problem at all. And this was when my kids were really young. My older kid was at the table playing with dolls, and I had my back to her, and I was working on the game, you know, watching my kids. Mm-hmm. And I've got an ear on her, and she's playing with her dolls, and it's a daddy-daughter game, right? Mm-hmm. And then I hear, and now we're gonna get married, and I just turn around like that's not how that works.
Yeah.
You don't, you know, daddy-daughter don't get married. We don't play like that. That's not appropriate. Yeah. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to writing my mother-son gangbang scene.
That is a crazy dichotomy, right? Like, you got to have a wall, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, that's one of my favorite fetishes when it comes to the medium. But now there's that extra layer that I have to be mindful.
As long as you separate it, and I think that's a big thing. Like, you know, we get pushed for lolly content all the time, and it's a firm no. It's always been a no, and it always will be a no. But like, the argument always is like, oh well, it's just written, it's fantasy, it's not real, and then and that's where, as a parent, I'm like, you know, it's something that I have, like, I just will not even like entertain, even like business wise, in any way possible. Even if someone's like, oh, here's tons of money, these guys will pay, you know, it's like, no, just No, I have ethics in certain things, right? As for non-con and stuff like that, like written, it's not a big deal, you know, as long as it's not, you know, I don't ever want to be on the headline, this guy's like, did this because he played this game, you know? And that's a big fear sometimes, you know? It's like, where'd you get that idea? Oh, these guys. It's like, oh, fuck. But, you know, outside that, like, as a parent, you just kind of, like, you teach your kids the right things, right? And you teach them that this is just play, you know? Like, not obviously they don't know what I'm doing, but...
well, right.
You know, but...
Well, and I think those, you know, you called them shadow fetishes, you know, the really dark stuff.
Yeah.
There's a place for it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to have a place for that kind of content, for the content that pushes things a little too far, that makes things a little uncomfortable, because if there's not a place for it, then people are going to find a place for it.
Yeah.
And nothing that we're putting out, nothing you're putting out, nothing Sunset's putting out, nothing I'm putting out is original. It's all derivative of something. Mm-hmm. We're not the first person to put out any of these ideas. So for someone to attribute their actions to our games, would be a hard pill for me to swallow.
Yeah.
It would be one that I would have to if it ever came out. But at the same time, I could point to 100 other things that person could have gotten that idea from, that is probably also consuming.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I have my own feelings towards, you know, certain fetishes, mm-hmm. that I'd love to talk about in private, but that I won't put out there, you know, for legal reasons. Why shoot myself in the foot? Why put content out there that I know is going to be controversial just for the sake of it being controversial?
Yeah.
I'm sure people would be really into some things. I'm not going to put it into the game. Again, you're welcome to
mod it up.
Yeah. But then that same mindset even applies to tamer fetishes, right? Mm-hmm. Like people keep asking me why there's no feet stuff in the game.
We get feet stuff. We always have a feet guy somewhere in our Discord. Yeah.
Feet there's guys. Always that guy.
Yeah, always a foot guy.
And look, great. I don't get it though. I have no problem with it at all. No problem whatsoever, but I don't get it. And if I don't get it, I can't write for it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put out content that I don't want to feel like I'm phoning in content.
Yeah. Exactly. There's places for that. They'll find it. But some people feel like especially when you're a creator, and I know SR7 gets this all the time, but people are trying to push their stuff. You know, we specifically do not put certain characters in polls for a certain reason, because they will win all the time. And it's either because they're the most popular, or their fans are more, you know, interacting, like they interact more. So we try to steer content to more obscure stuff rather, or we take a lot more care in deciding because of the fan base and how they can be, you know.
My favorite complaint from the community at large, across all sectors, is why are you only focusing on this one character? Why won't you write content for other characters? And I've gone on record. It is in writing. I have said, look, when we made the poll for what character gets content next, I have rigged this poll as best I can for the result that I want, that you're asking for. But every time I do it, you assholes vote for the other thing. That's what we're writing.
Yeah. Right?
I have given you chance after chance after chance to get the content you want in the game, but you keep voting for the other thing.
Yeah. We'll get a big bump in subscribers. You just Wonder Woman, Raven, boom. There's like 400 more people. Thanks. But we don't do that. Right? There's a way, you know? And SR7 tries to like include those very popular characters at least once a year, you know, but then there's like, you can tell when you're working on something that not a lot of people like. You see that on your subscription numbers. You see that at the bottom line when you go to your payout, you know, you're like, oh, this is a lower month, you know, what were we working on? It's like, oh yeah, okay. and it's hard not to be like, hey, we should just do a Raven game, like people would love that.
To that point, the hardest thing for me writing a game like this, a game this broad, with this many paths and this many options, is that anytime I'm writing, I could spend all day, morning to afternoon, on this scene and just think it's the best thing I've ever written.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to cope with the fact that 2% of my player base is ever going to see it because it requires you to go down a specific route and make specific choices. And even if you do, maybe you did it a different way, and just a few people are ever going to see this scene that I wrote.
Yeah,
well, that applies to every scene in the game.
Do you think there's like a scene you wrote that maybe like no one's seen? Like it's just like or do you have metrics for that kind of stuff?
Excuse me. I tried to look into analytics a few years ago. People always get really wary when things like that come up. But no, I don't have a good way to monitor how people are playing the game.
That's probably best, because that would I couldn't see how that wouldn't influence you.
Right? The best that for sure. And what we do instead is we tend to put out probably twice a year a general feedback survey.
Okay.
Just a real in-depth, hey, when you guys play the game, what gender are you making your character? What gender are you working on getting your character towards? It's a transformation game. Who do you spend the most time interacting with in the game? What character is your favorite? What character is your least favorite? Just anything that we can think to ask to get some kind of metrics back. Mm-hmm. And I love survey time because I love the numbers and the charts and and looking at the data. It's my favorite. And then writing the update post for the community, the next week. But that's about as good as we get in terms of trends.
Have you ever taken an internal, like to do a Patreon internal poll, like say Google Docs or whatever, but it's only Patreon or like paying patrons, and then do one public? Have you ever seen that? How that works out for you?
I hate it. You mean polling, getting
two different, yeah.
No, that's a really good idea.
Oh no, it's not. No, it's not. It's horrible. It's fucking brutal.
What you almost got me ranting on is how Patreon handles their actual polls.
Oh yeah, they're horrible. Patreon's just good for a blog post,
like all you need to do is give me the option to export it in such a way that I can see which tier matched up with which vote, but I don't. I have to make the same poll 4 different times for each tier who has different weights in the vote.
Yeah. We did weighted voting in the beginning, but then I think we decided that was just like a lot of extra work to calculate. So we're just like, oh, we actually, I think it was SR7 didn't want to do polls as much too, because it was just, he doesn't like people telling him what content to create. You know what I mean? That often.
Yeah.
So we've had some fun community events, but going back to that 2 separate polls, we ran a poll once internally for, I can't remember. Oh, it was for going to 2 months, going to bi-monthly builds. Okay. So we had we had an internal poll. It was something like 85 to 90% of the people on Patreon who are subs said, yeah, do it. We had something like 15% of the public people say no. Or 15% of the public people say yes. So like 90 or 85% said no publicly. It was that split. It was insane. Huh. I couldn't believe it. And then obviously the public votes were like huge, like 50,000, and then the Patreon one was like 1,500, so, but it was just, I don't know if there was brigading on that or what, but it was just such a huge different discourse. Like, they're like, no, they're going to milk. They're going to like, they're not going to do any work, now you're only getting 1 month's work in 2 months, blah, 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 blah. But yeah,
it's interesting though, because that logic to me says that people who aren't supporting the game are the ones worried about you milking them, whereas the ones who are actively supporting you want you to take your time with the update.
Oh yeah, it's always the same thing. It's always like, take your time, do a good job, and then the people that don't monetarily support. I guess like chatting about our stuff on F95. All you F95ers, it's support. Thank you. I know it grinds your gears, but I like it.
There is no
No,
bad publicity.
no, but yeah, like those people that are like really ardent fans, like your survival, your blood, they just want a good product. They're there for the long time. We actually have a tier that's just pay what you can. If you can, just pay it. It's like I think it's $50, and we got people in it. Like it was just we redid our tiers, and I was like, I don't know, what do we put up here? And it says, oh, $20. It starts at $20. We don't even have rewards after $10. Like you put $10 in, you get some rewards. 20, it's just because you can. And we got quite a bit of people that actually, give pay there, and it's nice to see when you have those kind of fans to help out, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
The idea is
no. I mean, the reality is, and I've said this a dozen times, 100 times, without the community, I would have no incentive to keep working on this. Yeah. I would have moved on a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But being able to get the reactions from the community, the feedback, the discussion when I'm not there, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
They are easily the best part of working on in this field, I think.
And you really have to, like, we learned through just like having a very toxic community in the beginning, especially, and it boils down to like, and I'm not insulting comic book fans in here, but they're very particular and very opinionated.
You started with the volatile fan base.
Right, exactly, right? So we talk about conditioning them in the sense that like we're getting them ready to like accept a lower toxicity environment, and like you're allowed to have your opinions, but you can only formulate them in a certain way. We don't put up with a lot of other stuff, and we got to a point now where like actively modding, our mods don't really have to do much, and we got I don't know, last I checked, I think there's like 40,000 members on there, and I don't know how many are active or like I purged once by accident. That's another story. Purged everybody that wasn't active in for 2 days or something. Purged like 30,000 people. Yeah, don't leave Discord open on the purge while you're playing a game and you don't realize you're in like windowed mode or something. I hit the button. I was like, where did everyone go? I was like, shit. But yeah, there's not a lot that has to be done or said because like people, the community moderates themselves. They like it the way it is and they don't want to change it. Like for instance,
pretty much.
I was going through all my mentions because I have a bot that mentions me every time someone tries to get Patreon rewards, because now it's fixed, but for years they couldn't get rewards. They'd be like, I connected my Discord, it doesn't work. It's like, fuck. So I'd have to go in and work with them. So I'm still pinged all the time, and right. when someone wants that, and I was going through and clearing up all those notifications. I had a few in some channels like porn. I don't ever go into that channel, and I went in there and it's all food, and I'm like, what? It's been like food for like a year and a half. Like, this is great. Like, this is like the hidden gem in my Discord server. I had no idea it existed. For the longest time, I'm like, I got a kid. I don't want to be in that channel when she's around, especially on my phone. And yeah, it's food. I was like, holy moly, this is like great stuff. I guess it was for a while. They changed it, and that's
yeah. I don't go into off topic unless I'm mentioned in there. But man, it's a trip going into some of those channels sometimes.
Yeah.
And a lot of time that's where the most activity on the Discord is, which is wild because it means people are using the Discord for the game as a general social platform. To your point earlier.
Yeah. And it's what the biggest thing that like so going back to Discord, like when we got on there, like basically like I found a Reddit thread and they were talking about Discord, and I saw Twitch streamers and YouTubers like Linus and all these other people talking about Discord. So I jumped on there. SR7 and I would have our meetings on Skype, and it was all right. We just ended up talking like for a few minutes about what we were doing, and then we just shot the shit about regular stuff. And then so I started looking, and I was like, oh, well, maybe we can use this for something else. Like maybe we can do something if we could get the Patreon tiers over. And I looked, and I found out that they were running this little discreet bot team, and I got on like number 9 or something. And since then we use it to push like material. Like we use it to like people come to Discord. They don't even go on Patreon. They just come to the Discord and they use their Patreon rewards, and they use that as a delivery model. And that's excellent. Like we've talked, we actually have a website. and it has the Patreon rewards integrated into it, which we paid for. But we don't use it because everyone just goes on Discord. Like if you just push everyone to
It's a
one
one-stop
place,
shop.
yeah, and then they come in and they talk and then they stay, and it's a retention model. Like so, like people come in and they enjoy themselves and then they keep paying because they enjoy the community. And Discord's blown up in the last like 3-4 years. Like it's huge.
Sometimes that's dangerous though. I don't know if you were familiar. Sometime last year, there were all those Discord hacks.
Yes.
Going on. The malware. We got hit with that twice.
Holy shit.
Lost the Discord, the one that's been around for years.
Yeah.
Lost it. Built a new one. People came back. Lost that one because of how the malware worked. I had to do a complete reformat.
Holy shit.
And now we're back up, and
it's hard to go back and build again, like
it is. And then the fear that people just aren't going to come back
or trust you, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. So now we've taken some pretty extreme steps to make sure that can't happen again.
Yeah, we use an enterprise grade like 2-factor and password system.
We use 2-factor, but it wasn't enough.
Really? Shit.
Yeah,
I know Haseo told me about it.
Around,
yeah, and I was like,
it straight up bypassed 2-factor. Because I worked in security for years. Of course, I'm going to put 2-factor on everything.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Not with this one.
So, your future wife, is she involved in this, or is she just kind of like let you do your own thing?
Well, the good news is she's riding the same wavelength that I am.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to being a total degenerate. She plays the game sometimes, not as much these days, just because time doesn't permit.
Yeah.
But she's also a digital artist, not for me.
Nice.
But it's great because when I do get artwork commissioned, I have someone that I can run it by, both in terms of technical quality and, does it do the job?
Yeah.
And I can share all that with her, and that's great. But she knows what I do. She knew what I do the day that we met, if not before. So we've always been together on that.
Family? Does family know? Like your parents or friends, stuff like that?
So depending on who I'm talking to, I'll start off with I'm a software developer, and if they push, I'm a game developer, which is dangerous because as soon as you say that, oh, what game do you make?
Oh,
I
God.
bet I've played it.
Yeah.
Like, no, I bet you haven't.
Yeah. I always tell my wife I'm a porn star. She's like, "Shut up! No, you're not." I'm like, "Well, we make porn games, and we got a big Discord or not Discord, Patreon. So technically," and she's like, "No, you're not. No, you're not." No, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But kind of though.
Kind of right. I'm not wrong.
I don't know about you, but I have had private chats with more than one.
Yeah, she don't like that shit. She's like, "No, you're not. Stop it. Shut up." Like,
oh, mine doesn't mind that I talk to him, but it's still crazy for me that people from the industry have pinged me on Discord.
That's nuts. Yeah.
But yeah, and if they push past that, it's a choose your own adventure thing. And if they keep pushing, I finally just, you asked for it, here it is. Here's what I do.
Oh, my daughter's getting so inquisitive. It's like, what do you do, Dad? Are you streaming? It's like, oh my God, I gotta be so quiet now. Like, yeah.
I guess I'm lucky in a way that my daughter's at the age where she hates me.
Oh.
So she just doesn't care.
Yeah. Then she'll get older and you'll always be daddy, right? Like you'll always be like king. There's nothing you could do wrong.
The moment she needs something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that she knows what I do. Not completely, but she knows that I make games that she can't play. And she's on the internet and she has friends, so I'm sure she knows what that means.
Yeah.
So she just doesn't care. She's not interested. Doesn't want to talk about it. I share any side projects that I'm working on
Mm-hmm.
with her. You know, when I'm dabbling in a new engine and putting together like a platformer or something, I'll show her, hey, look what I made today. This is a game. You can come over and play it.
Yeah.
And she loves that. But my actual job, which I don't know about you in Sunset, but convincing people that I have a job is one of the hardest things uh, with people
Yeah.
that I know.
Yeah. My mother-in-law
Um,
thinks I don't do anything. She's like, what? I swear to God, she thinks I'm like a trust fund baby. It's like, no, like, no, I'm not. Like, there's like the great thing is like what I do is I can wherever I go. So my wife's gotten to the point where it's like we've been in the truck driving her to work or whatever, and my phone's or in her car and my phone's going off and it shows up on the thing. I'm like, grab that, start telling me what SR7's telling me or Sunset's telling me, right? And
yep.
and she's like, oh, okay, and we're typing back and forth. Or we have a cottage an hour away and we're out there and I can be on my phone I'm working there too, right? And I got the laptop out there and just monitoring Discord, checking stuff out, doing like corporate stuff, you know. So, but my mother-in-law just sees me as just you're not doing anything, you're surfing the internet because that's what she does on her phone, right?
Yeah. But even when I'm at my computer, oh, you're just sitting around
Playing games,
or whatever. I guess. Okay.
SR7 knows all this because his mom used to do this shit to him all the time. She'd be like, "Oh, you do nothing but play games." And he's like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like, I do more than that.
I'm kind of lucky now, because my dad lives about 10 miles away from where I live.
Yeah.
So I've set up my office in his house.
Oh, okay.
So every day, every morning, I wake up early. I drop the kids off at school, and I kiss my wife goodbye, and I drive to work.
You live in the dream.
That, right. But before that, I worked at home.
Yeah.
I had my office set up at home, and being at home working meant you were just at home. Mm-hmm. Nobody has any respect for the fact that you are working because it just looks like you're sitting on the computer on Discord or whatever. And it's really hard to be productive when everyone sees you as just being home.
Yeah. And my wife works nights, so like it's all over the place. Like I like when my kid goes to school, it's quiet time. When my wife works days, but she's a nurse, so like she gets so much time off that it's like, oh, she's up and doing stuff, and she'll want to go running around. Well, it's like, oh, okay, well then that means I have to do something later tonight. That means I have to be at the computer later on tonight, which is fine, you know. But at the same time, like it's a weird working schedule, you know. Like it's not like you're 9 to 5, you know. Might work for 2 hours and then be off for 3 and then work for 3. Like I got building a little home gym in my little 20 by 20 garage, 20 by 22 garage, and I'll be in there and I'll get distracted and I'll just be on Discord or like on F95 looking at stuff or on Patreon or all that stuff and it just all of a sudden my workout's gone to shit and I come back and she's like, how'd it go? And I'm like, just doing this stuff or this email came out and I had to go and answer it and yeah, it's just
the ADHD is real.
Yeah. And especially because of working on the internet, I think, especially in working from home too, like I don't think I'm generally got ADHD, but I think that being able to like dictate where my attention goes whenever I want without someone telling me is definitely a challenge, you know, to make sure you're focused. You know, like today, making sure all the stream stuff was set up and all that kind of stuff. It was little my brain's melted. I'm going to be sitting down on the couch after this. Monster Hunter came out on Xbox Game Pass. I was like, oh shit, I'll download that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit back. I'm gonna watch some TV, you know, and just relax. You know, the wife went to work, so there's nobody here.
Yeah, it was gonna be Persona 4, but you know, I think it's just gonna be the rest of that 90s show.
Yeah. Oh, that 90s show. We started that. Actually, you know what? It's not bad.
It's better than it has any right to be.
Right. I was like, at first, I'm like, are they trying to make the same characters? And I'm like, but they're not. But they kind of are, so there's like a familiarity with the way the characters are designed and written, but
we're 3 episodes in, and you know, I like it. It's not that 80s show.
Yeah,
they didn't mess up again.
Yeah,
I like it. I'm enjoying it, and we just started watching Mythic Quest, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, me and my wife are in between. We're watching like Yellowstone and a lot of those spin-off shows like 1923. and stuff like that. But she's been playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps lately on her night shift, so been kind of just sitting over here playing some games. I dabble in some League of Legends. I'm a sadist like that, but I don't play. I just play the like for fun modes, and then Bannerlord was something else I've been playing lately. But other than that, we haven't had much TV.
Marvel Snap came out, and my productivity's just tanked. I'm a sucker for mobile games. It's not
really?
healthy.
Yeah, I haven't tried.
I finally called it quits on gotchas. I finally broke that bad addiction.
Oh shit!
But now Ben Brode's making mobile games, and I'm paying attention.
Yeah, and then here someone's gonna be listening. Our YouTube comments gonna be like Android when for SU. I always want that. Well, man, it's been an hour and 50 minutes. I think this is great for an inaugural episode. I think we've covered a lot of topics, and I really thank you for setting precedent for future guests. I think this is awesome, and I appreciate it. And we'll have to do this again in the future.
Oh, for sure. Future guests, the bar is on the floor.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all, and thanks everyone for watching. I saw at one point we had over 100 viewers. That was absolutely amazing. I was hoping for 5. So I hope I didn't annoy all you guys with my bullshit. But anyways, have a good weekend, Westane, and thank you for stopping by.
All right. Thanks for having me. This was a great time.